Hi guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. In this video we're going to be previewing the Turrican Collection that was announced recently by Blaze. It will release February 2026 and it's available for pre-order now. In this video we're going to be playing through the games, looking at the details, and I'll give you my thoughts whether this cart is worth buying. Sneak peek, it definitely is. Okay guys, so let's have a look at the details of the games before we actually get stuck in to the playing the actual game. So we've got the Factor 5, this is who own the rights to these versions of Turrican. The original versions are owned by Manfred Franz or Friends, I can't remember his actual name, but he owns the rights to the original Turrican games on the C64, and he also done the NES version apparently as well. But unfortunately, we don't have the C64 versions on this collection, which is where I originally learned about Turrican and played it a lot. Definitely would put Turrican as probably my top 3 game on the Commodore 64. I rate it that highly. So it says here we've got including 8 games and 2 bonus items. Now realistically, it's only probably 4 games we've got here. We've got different variations of the same game, and I'll explain that as I'm going. But yeah, in all it's probably 10 games, 8 games and 2 bonus things. But anyway, let's have a look at the details. So we've got Turrican, the 16-bit version, which is the Amiga version, which obviously was ported from the C64. We've got Turrican 2, the Final Fight, which was actually done just at the same time as the C64 version, but this one was completed first. Also the Amiga version. We've got Turrican 3 on the Amiga, which is actually a port of I think it's Mega Turrican. After the Amiga version was done after that, which is it's all a bit messed up and a bit crazy, but that's basically it. So Mega Turrican is the Genesis or Mega Drive version, which is basically Turrican 3. And we've also got the director's cut of Mega Turrican on the Mega Drive or Genesis, which has basically extra visuals, new visuals, extra levels, that type of thing. I'm not entirely sure. I've never actually played these versions in full, so I'm not sure where the extras are, so I couldn't even point them out to you until I've actually played it in full. So there is that. So we've also got the Score Attack version of Mega Turrican, which is basically a specially designed level, and you're trying to attain the best possible score that you can based on Turrican 3 or Mega Turrican. It's just a slightly different designed level. So basically Mega Turrican is just a tacked on game, or the Score Attack version is tacked on. That would be classed as one of the bonus items here. Now we're on to Super Turrican, which is the Super Nintendo version, which I think was based on Turrican 2, although it is slightly different. It's got slightly different level design here and there. It just is a little different, but that is based on Turrican 2. And we've also got the director's cut of that game with the extra visuals and some extra levels as well. Again, not entirely sure where they are and what they are, because I've not played the director's cuts of any of these games at all. And we also have Super Turrican Score Attack. Now that's another sort of addition, or it's like a bonus item that's been added here, and it's really just a specially designed level to try and get the best possible score. And finally we got Super Turrican 2, which it does feel a little bit different to the other games here, where you can actually drive some vehicles. It's definitely a little bit different. This was all based on the Super Nintendo, but that's the 10 games, so to speak. But as I said, it's only 4 games. You've got Turrican, Turrican 2, Turrican 3. Obviously you get the different versions on the consoles, which do feel differently, and then you've got Super Turrican 2. So realistically 4 games, but yeah, there's plenty to play through here. Even if it was only the 4 games, it would be really good value for money, in my opinion. So before we jump into playing the games, obviously I have to highlight the fact that we've got various different versions from over the years. This is on the Nintendo Switch site, or the Nintendo.com site anyway. Now there's 3 different versions that were released since 2021. I originally actually purchased Turrican Flashback in 2020 on the PlayStation 4. I actually done a live stream at the time when I purchased it just to play through the games. Now it's 4 games that's on that, but we'll have a look at the details. But I'm really just highlighting the fact that the prices at present, and only really for the next few days, are pretty cheap. You've got $4.99 for Turrican Flashback and $5.99 for each of the Anthology 1 and 2. Now realistically, if you've got a Switch or a PlayStation, you might be able to pick these up cheaper, albeit digitally. But the real prices of those are $24.99 and $29.99 each for those Anthology versions, which would obviously, if you purchased all of that, would be 60 quid. So the Evercade version is only going to be 20 quid for basically what you're getting in Anthology 1 and 2. So that's kind of interesting, and obviously we're getting the physical cart as well, and the cartridge, or the manual that will go with that. But anyway, let's have a look at the details. Just before we jump in to play the games, I just want to make sure obviously you're available of these. This is only available for the next couple of days, if you're interested. Turrican Flashback only had 4 games, if I recall. It had, I think it had the first 3. It had Turrican 1, 2, Mega Turrican and Super Turrican. Now, realistically, that is probably the only 4 games you really need. So this Flashback version is pretty good, and it's a good version to actually have. And if you can pick that up at a good price, albeit, but obviously that depends if you have a PlayStation or a Nintendo Switch. It's not available on Xbox as far as I can tell. Now, what we're getting is closely based on Anthology Volume 1 and Volume 2 put together. Now, on Anthology Volume 1, there was Turrican on the Amiga, Turrican 2, Super Turrican the Director's Cut, and Mega Turrican the Score Attack. So each of the volumes has 5 games, which we're getting all in the one collection. Now, the difference between these versions on the Switch, obviously they have a lot of different options and ability to change maps, controls, unlockable cheats. There's a lot going on in these versions, so it'll be interesting to know exactly what we get on Evercade. Will we be getting these fancy souped up versions? I don't think we will, because I think if they were going to do that, we'd most likely have to get them running natively on Evercade, where I think realistically they'll probably be running obviously through emulation, whether it be Amiga, the Mega Drive, or Super Nintendo. So I don't really think we'll get all the extras that you see on Anthology at all. I might be wrong, but I just don't think so. I think it'll be tailor-made just for what you get on Amiga and Mega Drive solely. So that's probably why we're getting a good value for money there at 20 quid. Otherwise, you got these souped-up versions, it would be about 60 quid going at the full price. So obviously Anthology 2 has Turrican 3, Mega Turrican Director's Cut, Super Turrican 2 and Super Turrican 1 Score Attack. So basically we are getting all of this, Anthology 1 and 2, on the one collection. It does look like good value for money, and I'm really excited. I think I am absolutely a huge fan of Turrican. So without further ado, guys, let's play through the games.
Welcome to Turrican!
So first up, we're looking at Turrican on the Amiga, the 16-bit version that was initially released on the Commodore 64 way back in 1990. Coincidentally enough, that is when I first got my Commodore 64 in Christmas 1990. Great times. Anyway, this is the Amiga version, which was obviously based on that. But what a fantastic title this is. It's probably best described as a run and gun game, maybe even loosely like the Metroid games, although that's probably not really doing it great justice. It's its own game in its own right. It's a run and gun action style game. You've got lots of weapons at your disposal, and it's kind of mind-blowing at first to sort of get your head round on it, so hopefully Blaze do a decent enough job with the button mapping on this occasion. You've got your jump button, you've also got a standard fire, which you can actually upgrade with different pickups. There's various different styles to the standard fire. You've also got some sort of, you can see down the bottom of the screen the different things you've got. The one with the fire is basically some sort of shield. If you press the button, it would sort of do some sort of shield across the screen and destroy everything on its path. That was the space bar that you could do that in the original Commodore 64, which is pretty cool. And there's other things. There is sort of grenades you can use as well, and you can even turn the Turrican into some sort of spiral sort of star thing, and then that is actually makes you almost indestructible as well. Now the controls do vary from game to game, which I'll try and explain as we go. For the best part, they are the same, but some of the sort of console versions have different variations, which was later adopted into Turrican 3 as well on the Amiga. Now this obviously the original game. I think it has about 5 worlds overall. Now they are pretty sprawling. It's not really a linear style game. There's plenty of parts to this even initial level that you could easily miss and ignore. There's lots of secrets that you can find, and as I said, there's over 5 worlds, and there is bosses at the end of these as well. But these games are really quite tricky to play. I remember playing this quite a lot on the Commodore 64 and it was notoriously difficult, so bear that in mind. I guess we've got the sort of Evercade, we will have access to the save state, so that will at least take away some of the painstaking difficulty that these games do offer. But bear that in mind, obviously. But these games are fantastic. I absolutely love Turrican and Turrican 2. I haven't really played an awful lot of the sort of sequels and console versions of the games, but I have played a lot of the initial 2 games, especially on the Commodore 64. And later in life, yes, I did eventually get to play the Amiga versions. For me, in my eyes at least, these games are absolute classics. I love them. They were well received at the time as well, so it's not really just my opinion. Read some of the reviews. They are well received and well regarded out there by a lot of publications and people. A lot of people do regard this as some of the best games released. Commodore 64, Amiga, whatever platform they were on. Fantastic stuff. So on to Turrican 2, the final fight. This is also the Amiga version that we're playing here. Now the version I've chosen to play is actually on the Anthology collections. I thought it was probably the easiest way to show these games. So that might actually vary in the final version that we get on Evercade. Not entirely sure. Some of the sounds and graphics might vary slightly, but probably not an awful lot. But anyway, Turrican 2 was basically more of the same stuff. Some slight variations here and there where you could actually jump onto the enemies' heads, much like you could like Super Mario style, and they would be squashed. But there's lots of different enemy styles, a few different weapons here and there as well. But more or less, it's more of the same. I think there's 5 worlds in this game as well, split across 11 different levels. But again, more Turrican. I think this was slightly higher rated than the original version. Still great stuff, amazing fun to play. Next up, we got Super Turrican. This is the SNES or Super Nintendo version, which was very loosely based on Turrican 2. They share very similar level designs, but you can probably tell graphically and sound-wise it does feel more like a console game, and arguably it's probably a little bit more user-friendly to get started with. I suppose if you're going to start somewhere, this would be the easiest place to actually start. Not that I'm saying it's easy, it just feels a little bit more friendly to get started with. Now there are differences. The sort of laser weapon that you use here doesn't destroy the enemies, it only freezes them. So bear that in mind if you're jumping between game to game. That does get a little bit confusing sometimes. But I would say arguably this might even be my favourite version of the game. I found myself enjoying this one a little bit more than the other games, Turrican 1 and 2, and I love those games, but I just felt sometimes this was a little bit more user friendly, and I guess a little bit more modern styled perhaps. I guess arguably I might change my mind from time to time, and I'm sure a lot of people will be the exact same. There are a few differences. I feel that the character can only jump so high, whereas in the Amiga versions the character would jump higher depending how long you would press the fire button. But still, fantastic stuff and a really great version of Turrican.
Power up.
So we also have the director's cut of Super Turrican, which basically includes more levels that were cut from the original game due to size limitations. This was originally released digitally way back in 2018, and then obviously included as part of the Anthology games, and now as part of the Evercade Collection. So next up we're looking at Turrican 3. This is the 16-bit Amiga version. Apparently this was a port of Mega Turrican, which is the Mega Drive Genesis game that we're going to have a look at next. Now it does look and feel more like a console game rather than an Amiga style game. It obviously quite varied from Turrican 1 and 2. Also gone is the sort of laser weapon. Obviously in Super Turrican it was the freeze weapon. Now it's a grapple hook of some description which you use to sort of jump or make your way across unreachable platforms. Does get a little bit confusing going between the different versions of the games, because that is the one thing that changes the most between the different versions of the game. Just bear that in mind when you're actually playing it. I have to be honest though, I'm not sure this is my favourite version of Turrican. I'd say probably this might even be my least favourite of the games. I got a little bit confused, lost sometimes back and forth, and I definitely found myself not enjoying this as much as Turrican 1, 2 and Super Turrican. Okay, so this is Mega Turrican. This is the Mega Drive Genesis version of the game. Has a little bit of a messy history. Apparently they really struggled to get a publisher of this game at the time. And obviously the Amiga was sort of beginning to struggle around about the time of 1993, and I guess they were trying to concentrate on the sort of consoles more than that. But interestingly enough, the Amiga version, even though it was a port of this, it was actually published on that first, due to the struggles to get a publisher for the Genesis Mega Drive version of this. Now, there aren't an awful lot of differences between the two games. You can see graphically it is a little bit tighter, a little bit different. The sounds are obviously more Mega Drive-like than Amiga-like, which is quite obvious when you're playing it. But it is more or less the same sort of game that we are playing. Again, though, it's not really my favourite version of Turrican. So we also have the director's cut of Mega Turrican. Much like the Super Nintendo version, it's basically got levels that were cut from the original version due to size limitations. So next up we got Super Turrican 2. This is on the Super Nintendo. To be honest, sometimes looking at it, it almost felt like we were playing a Nintendo 64 game rather than Super Nintendo. There's a lot of special effects going on here. I love the sort of shimmering in the background, for example. It does feel quite advanced for a Super Nintendo game. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. And it's not a game I'd actually played before, and it does feel very un-Turrican-like. It feels more like you're playing a sort of Contra game rather than a Turrican game, because it's not got that sprawling level design. It's more linear. It's more sort of running from left to right, a sort of traditional sort of run and gun left to right game. At least it does have some vehicles that adds a little bit of variety to the style of game that you're playing here. It also adds a grab hook as well as the sort of laser gun that we have. It does feel very different and almost doesn't feel like it belongs on this collection, to be honest. Obviously it does have similarities, but it just feels very, very different. I'm not saying I don't dislike it just feels very different to the games we've played here. I probably would rather play this than sort of Mega Turrican or Turrican 3, for example.
Emergency. Power up. One up.
And finally, we're going to be looking at the bonus games added to this collection. First up, Mega Turrican, the Score Attack version, which is basically a specially designed level where you're trying to get the best possible score, and that's basically it. It just feels like almost like a training style game where you can use it for a little bit of practice and get your best possible score. Not really sure I see the point of it, although I'm pretty sure there'll be a few out there in the Evercade community that will be loving the challenge and perhaps compare that to all the other Evercade folks out there. Other than that, I don't really see the point. And finally, we've also got the Super Nintendo version. This is Super Turrican Score Attack version. Again, just a specially designed level to challenge yourself to get the best possible score. So final thoughts, guys, on the Turrican Collection. I would highly recommend it. I am a huge fan of the Turrican games, especially Turrican 1, 2 and Super Turrican. Fantastic gaming series, and arguably they still hold up really, really well today. And this sort of version we're going to get on Evercade seems like really good value, considering we're getting Anthology 1 and 2 in the same collection. I can't wait for this to hit Evercade. It's going to be a great start to 2026. This, as well as Taito Collection 3, cannot wait. Guys, let me know your thoughts. Are you going to be picking this up? If not, why not? See you in the next one. Bye for now.